Hello, welcome to Cool Discussions. That's Barry. I'm Chris. We're going to be talking about the minimum wage. It's a hot topic here in Alberta, and it's starting to gain a little bit of traction in the States because there's been a big movement towards getting a $15 livable wage. Here in Alberta, we're going to have that livable wage by 2018.
I think so, yeah.
It is. Right now, and
isn't it $12.10 or something right now?
Yeah, right now it just went up to $12.10. We have in Alberta, it's the highest in all of Canada, and I've been listening to a lot of people talk about the minimum wage, and I've been hearing a lot about we should get rid of the minimum wage, and it will actually be more beneficial to employees than if we have a minimum wage.
If you want to have unions all over the place, yeah.
And I think that's where it would actually be hand in hand. If you didn't have unions, it would be very much like the Industrial Revolution when factory owners employed anybody and everybody, but paid them nothing.
I'm sorry, but just ask yourself this question. If you work for a company, ask yourself this question. Would the company that I work for, if there was no minimum wage, would the company I work for still pay me the wage that I get paid now, or would they find somebody to do it cheaper? If they could find somebody to do it for $10 an hour, you think they would do that? Let's just be honest. Let's be 100% honest. Let's not sit here and be like, well, there's some good people. Yes, there are good people, but ask yourself, would Walmart, would they pay? Yeah, they pay their employees a minimum wage right now, right?
They do.
And so you think if they didn't have a minimum wage, what do you think that would happen?
They would pay their people
$5 an hour. When I started working, the minimum wage is $5 an hour. Now, obviously, cost of living has gone up, everything like that, but I made $5 an hour. Because that was the minimum that somebody had to pay me. You know what I mean? So, like, these people who are in business, okay, you're in business to make as much money as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What do you think would happen? Honestly.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What are people saying? Because I haven't heard anybody,
No, okay.
Get rid of the minimum wage.
It's been saying it's like, oh, you get rid of the minimum wage and companies will pay better. And it's like, well, no, because you're right. Companies, we'll use Walmart because we know Walmart. Mm-hmm. Walmart isn't going to pay more money because if they could, they would do it now. But they don't. They pay as cheap as possible to get away with as much as possible.
Yeah, do you think that, like...
And Walmart, if there was no minimum wage, they would honestly slash it right across the board and go, oh, you don't like this? Go someplace else.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as a maximum wage right now. There's no, hey, you can only pay so much.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So right now, companies pay as little... They go, oh, a lot of companies don't pay minimum wage. Let's be honest. Like, I work at a job, they don't pay me minimum wage. So they pay me more than that. And they pay you more at your job, so there are companies out there who would.
Yeah.
But I think that, so what's the number on people who make minimum wage right now? It's probably not very high. Like, a lot of Alberta probably doesn't make minimum wage.
Well, okay, it depends on where you go. Because, like, if you're talking about the retail industry, fast food, restaurants and stuff like that, I bet you 80% of all people employed are making minimum wage or just within a buck.
The companies that have, like, low profit margins would take advantage, I think, of this, like you said, restaurants, retail, stuff like that would take advantage of no minimum wage. Or other companies like oil, gas, stuff like that, who already pay above the minimum wage, would probably stay along the same lines. But I guarantee you, well, I don't know 100%, obviously, but obviously the minimum wage was put in place for a reason.
Yeah.
Because companies were taking advantage of it.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's like,
for sure. Now, an interesting fact was brought up is that somebody had said that the EU has no minimum wage. Now, I actually delved into this. I delved into it. The EU, some of the states, some of the countries in the EU don't have minimum wage. And it's quite true. The thing is, they have a very, very big collective bargaining agreements in place. So there are tons of unions everywhere.
That's what I mean. Everything would become a union because people would.
Now, if that was true, if everybody did become part of a union, at least at that point in time, a union can fight for you, could fight for stuff, and then at that point in time, the retail industry could have a union that fought for them, and they can get a different type of pay scale. I know in the oil and gas there are unions involved in it because of the welding, iron workers. They all have unions. Drivers don't. Others, some do, some don't. So you have a little bit of a mix. So that's why there's a higher pay.
I just wonder what's better. Pay. Is it better to have unions, or is it better to?
Okay, I have always stated in today's day and age, unions are outdated. What I find with unions is they become too political.
Yeah.
And they spend time, effort, and money on politics. Is something that they shouldn't do at all. Now, if you go back to the Industrial Revolution, which is where, there was no minimum wage, there were no unions. So, factories took advantage of people. Everybody took advantage of people to get the most out of it as they could. People had 12-hour days. They were using child labor. We don't have things like that. And one of the things I've heard is that you're supposed to enter into a consensual agreement with a company. Well, I don't know about you, but the 2 million people employed by Walmart aren't necessarily in a consensual agreement with Walmart.
See, and I think elitists would. What the hell? Our shit just froze there for a sec. That was weird. So if you see a glitch, we apologize. The thing that like I wonder is though, like, I just wonder, like, a lot of people think that because when you look at the people who are the low earners, they're generally the uneducated, unskilled workers. So a lot of people who are, I'm going to call them elitists because that's how I view them, and would just be like, go back to school, go learn more, go better yourself, right, in this competitive market.
Yeah.
And me personally, I look at it and go, but I could go to school, I could educate myself to the 10th degree, right, and still not. How many people go to school for years and years and years and don't go into their field that they went to school for?
Mm-hmm.
How many people, like, I don't know the exact stat, but I know that I've had a few friends who, I went to school for this and I don't even do it. And it's like, why'd you go to school? Just to go to school? Like, you know what I mean? So I just, to get rid of a minimum wage, you have to have a combination of things, I think. You'd have to, unions would obviously solve it. Or, if you didn't want that way, you'd have to put your trust in people to do the right thing. And this is where I wonder.
The trust in people thing doesn't
because
work.
Right now, we live in a world where there is no maximum wage.
Yep.
And we live in a world that's for profit.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
It is about greed.
So, like, if, and I've had a conversation with a guy about this, and he got very mad at me because he's an elitist. He has an elitist thinking of, well, these people, these business people, they take risks. They provide a lot of people. And I look at it and go, when you look at a company that pays minimum wage to a worker, you're not providing anything to them. In a sense, you're. I'll use this term loosely, like the modern day slave.
Indentured servant.
Yes, because obviously I don't want to compare it to slavery. You're gonna all get mad at me because
indentured servitude is what it would be called. It's wage slave. So I get it. It's people that a lot of elitists don't necessarily take risks. A person who buys a McDonald's franchise really isn't taking risks.
Yeah, if you buy Tim Hortons, yeah. Okay, let's just pause here for a sec. My elitist, when I think of elitist, look at Kevin O'Leary. Yeah, on Shark Tank, he's an elitist. When he was on that show, the little clip that went viral and went around, he said that he is totally for capitalism, and so am I. I like capitalism. I think you should have minimal government. Everybody, like, regulations, legislation should be as little as possible so people can compete.
Yes.
He has the mentality of everybody has the same opportunity, everybody has the same. It's like it's an even race from day one, and that's completely false. Mm-hmm. I think it is. If you believe that everybody has the same, that would be that's saying like I'm as smart as Albert Einstein. I'm as smart as an engineer, which I'm not. Anybody can be a doctor. Anybody could be the
anybody can be a doctor.
That's my view of an elitist. He is an elitist, completely. And there's so many people out there who think it now. I believe that you should be like. This is where I'm on the fence about the minimum wage. Is that I don't think the government should be able to force a company to pay. Right. So, like, maybe unions or collective bargaining agreements would be the way to go. Because then you could be like, well, you could, and Chris mentioned this before, you could go into a company and say, well, I want to make no more than X% less than the top earner in my company. You know what I mean? So if I was an owner, I would look at it and go, okay, this business, if I owned a Tim Hortons, I've always thought about it this way. If I owned a Tim Hortons, I would pay, right? So say average Tim Hortons was paying like $17 an hour. I don't even know what they pay, but say they were paying.
And depending on where they are,
you know, I would look at it and go, okay, I'm going to pay $20, so I can have the best, and I'm going to take a little bit less off the top for myself. I'm still going to pay myself a wage.
Yeah,
but sure. I'm going to take a little bit less on the profit end to make these people happy.
Yeah.
So they come to work every day. They stay with me.
A good example of this is like, okay, the Walmart example always comes up because they're saying it's like, oh, the CEO of Walmart makes $20 million a year, and it's just like, okay, you know what? Considering he's in charge of 2 million people, that's fair. It's just the fact that Walmart makes like $5 billion a year in profits.
That's the thing that bothers me is that when
honestly, if you took $1 billion and put it back into your employees, or maybe two, just taking a little bit less.
Well, that's where I've always come from. When I had this conversation, I said, at what point is too much? You know what I mean? And that's where the minimum wage is. Like it's just weird because you get rid of it. Okay, so we're gonna just unionize everything.
Yeah,
everything's gonna become a union now. That's exactly what will happen.
But okay, I think at that point in time, unions should be legislated to not be involved in politics. They shouldn't be allowed to donate.
Lobby to fucking...
No. They shouldn't be allowed to donate to political parties. They shouldn't be allowed to put out ads. Because unions were good. They made, I don't know about necessarily Canada, but Canada and the U.S. tend to tie together. But unions made America strong.
Yeah.
And then there was a big effort to break unions, even though they were making America strong, by government. There's a big lobby. And then unions started attaching themselves to a party because it's like, oh, they don't want to break my union, I'm going to support them. And it's just like, I've always disliked unions because I think they've outlived their usefulness. But if you take away the minimum wage, I think collective bargaining and unions.
Well, you look at collective bargaining and you look at sports. Because they have collective bargaining agreements.
Yeah, but they also have a minimum wage.
No, yeah. But they have collective bargaining agreements, and the NHL's locked out 4 times in the last 25 years, and it's like... So, like, me personally, I don't know, I'm just so, like... I think the problem can't be solved by law. I don't think it can be solved by regulation, legislation... I think it can only be solved when society realizes that we all have to work together and that my value to this world is no different than anybody else's.
Kumbaya buddy.
Well, it's true, though. It's true.
I get it. If it's the greed aspect to it.
That's what I mean. Like, somebody above me, somebody in the elitist category looks at me and probably goes, you're unskilled, you're nothing to this world. You need to... improve yourself by becoming more educated, becoming more skilled. And it's like, well, hold on.
But okay,
have you talked to me? Have you?
At that point in time, it's kind of like, you have a person who's been working at a place for 5 years, and then you have a person who's been has an education. and education and whatever you happen to be the company for. And it's kind of like, you know, who's more valuable, the guy who's been at your company 5 years, or the guy who just who has an education? I'm going to take the guy who's actually.
I think they're both as valuable.
I'm going to take the guy who actually has relevant skill.
Well, if it depends. If you're comparing the same job, yeah, I would rather take the carpenter who's been on the job for 5 years compared to the carpenter who's been out for 5 years.
But the carpenter doesn't have this guy doesn't have an education.
He went through it a different way.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about like the people who work at like, you know, the lower end jobs.
Even if you go into a restaurant, like a fast food chain, are you going to hire a chef?
Not a fast food chain. No, I would never.
No, but that's the thing. A chef isn't going to lower his standards. But one of the things I've always heard is, like, you know, teenagers are affected by this, but just anybody in general. You know, when you hire the minimum wage, it's like, is somebody going to hire somebody with no skills, or is there going to hire somebody with more skills? Well, guess what? Those people who with more skills already have the jobs and aren't looking to get hired.
And they want more money.
They want more money on top of that. And it's just like, so you almost need to hire these people without skills and start training them. Because if you don't, you're not going to get somebody who
It's just a weird... I just don't think... It's not... There's no easy answer to this minimum wage thing. There's no easy way to solve it. Do you want unions?
I think if you get rid of the minimum wage, in unions, collective agreements, and maybe a little bit of
legislation... pay union dues? Fuck. Great. Now my lazy coworker is protected by a union.
Well,
you know what I mean.
We can talk about unions on another day quite easily. It is a ranting subject, but it's like the minimum wage is a necessary evil right now, considering the way society works.
Well, that's the thing. Like if we weren't a for-profit society, then I think we could live without a minimum wage. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like there's a study out there of like. I can't even remember where I was going with that. Sorry. I just gapped. Yeah. We've all done it where we just went gapped and stuff like that. And I don't know. It's not... To me, I don't like that the government can tell a company what to pay. But like you said, I think it's a necessary evil because I don't think that... I think that...
I don't trust companies.
Yeah, I don't trust companies. I don't trust corporations to regulate themselves to do the right thing.
As Barry started this conversation with... Ask yourself, if there was no minimum wage, would your company cut your wage, or
would they hire
pay you some more, or pay you some more, or pay you as much as you're making right now? Because if they answered pay you less, guess what? That's exactly what they're going to do. So
yeah.
On that note, we will probably talk about unions at some point in time because.
Don't forget to share this video with your family, your friends. You know, hey, you're all just around the house drinking eggnog and all that stuff. You've got new laptops and stuff. Check our videos out. Tell your family, tell your friends. Share it with your Facebook lovers or whatever. Just put it on your Facebook page for all 500 of your friends to see who you never talk to. Yeah, put it out there. Spam
share,
it.
like, subscribe.
That's right.
Share, like,
comment on our video below what you think about the minimum wage.
Talk to us on the comments below. Yes.
All right, guys.
See you tomorrow.